So, hello and welcome to the next chess video. This time I show you again the game between Komodo 12 versus Wasp 2.0, but this time I don't give Komodo the MCTS, but same opening position, this Berlin thing. Let's say a6, bishop takes, pawn takes, and d3. This is also kind of theory. Followed up with bishop to d6. Let's see how Komodo 12 wins this, because this is now the strong version of Komodo. And yeah, this is the opening phase we also had discussed while Deep Fritz 14 was playing against Wasp in this opening. So I will smoke a cigarette and I'll be back when the opening is over. We have bishop takes c6, that's kind of expected. Okay. We have bishop takes, pawn takes, castles, and bishop to d6. So far so normal. See, Komodo goes for d4. Probably not taking because of this fork. So d4, queen here. But you also don't want to park with the bishop pair. Maybe even f4. This check does nothing. Queen here. Queen has to go back, and now maybe even e5. Knight here and bishop there. But then you park with that pawn. So probably bishop here. Still keeping everything. Castles. Knight c3. Knight takes, bishop takes, and this position should be good for white. Prospects of f5, f6. d4, bishop to g4. Let's see. Bishop takes, takes. Now there is no knight takes because the knight is pinned. So h6. Pretty takes. Then castles. Rook here. Not queen there. Queen there. Bishop here, rook there, knight here, h6, and something like this, and this should be around equal, this position, but all the rising positions in the Berlin defense are kind of equal, so yeah. Let's see. Castles, rook e1, knight bd2 is not taking, but knight bd2. What about taking here? Then still e5 because the queen is protecting it. So knight bd2. Let's say castle. So now if some random move, this doesn't work anymore because the rook pins the pawn to the queen. So after castles you'd have to take h3, bishop takes, knight takes, attacking the bishop, and if the bishop moves back then you again have this fork. Then this one might come. If you move the queen away, then this pawn hangs. So knight takes, bishop here, e5, e5 rook here, bishop there, but then the bishop can go back. And if the queen, let's say, goes to c4, then the knight goes there. Okay, you can pin the knight again, so that this doesn't work. You lose the queen. So also the bishop is protected by the queen. So, okay, you have a pawn on e5. This could be an attacking asset. Queen g4, bishop takes, d takes e5 is also possible immediately. D takes e5, bishop takes e5, and then knight bd2. Yeah, we have d takes e5, but this is just different move order. We are still in this kind of position, but let's see both evaluations right around here. 0.47 gives Komodo 12 and Wasp 2.0. They're unbeatable. Probably gives it as equal. So yeah, let's see. d4, bishop g4 we have. Now d takes e5, bishop takes e5 and knight bd2. Probably followed up with queen e7. Queen d3, now threatening the bishop. Castles, knight takes, queen takes, rook f1, e1. Maybe preparing to go f4 at some point. h3, g4, also an idea. So let's say you go there with the rook. Let's say you be mega aggressive with this kind of stuff, f4, and trapping the bishop. But there should be some flaw in it. For example, here there could be takes, takes, or there could be even bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, threatening mate, f4, attacking the queen, and then queen here again, threatening mate, queen there defending. It could be some really aggressive stuff here after rook here. Queen e7, h3, g4, bishop here and g5, but rook, this rook to here most probably does seem to work, because after f4 queen goes there, f5, no, you cannot take, because you can take with the pawn, with the cheap pawn. So this I have to investigate, but you don't have to go there, you can also go back here, so this is not a problem at all. So let's see, rook f e8, h3, bishop goes there, f5, bishop goes there, g4. This could be very, very aggressive, but it could also backfire. Okay, we have castles instead. Queen e3 is calculated by Komodo as a good move. Queen e3, bishop takes f3, knight takes f3, attacking the bishop. Okay, the bishop cannot move because of this fork. Well, it could move probably because of rook here, pinning the pawn. Bishop here. You could also take, maybe. Go for something like this. But then bishop here. Knight there, forking. So we have to take care. So not e5 after the bishop moves back. There are a lot of things to investigate here. Castling, queen e3, bishop takes, or queen e8 is what Wasp 2.0 gives. What about this? Takes, takes, pawn here, d5, rook here. Pawn here, bishop takes, and knight g4, forking knight and queen. So you would get back the piece. If you go here, then knight takes, bishop here. Okay, now you have pinned the knight to, no, well, it's not really a pin, but you could go f. No, you cannot go, but you could maybe go f4 followed up with f5 and f3. So this is quite dangerous. So we are exactly in this line now. Knight takes f3, Currently black is up a pawn, but this bishop queen battery here is kind of compensation. Also it's a double C pawn, so it's not so important, and f5 is threatened. You cannot really go there. Well, you could actually. This is one option. f3 might be the better option, but then you face h4, and h5 h6 will come most probably. So this is, sorry for that, this could be quite aggressive, but why give up a pawn like this? Don't have to play e5. You can play this immediately, going for the same plan without losing a pawn. Queen here, rook there. I don't know, rook there is terrible. Knight takes f3, bishop here. b3 is a little bit slow because of rook e8. Because of rook e8. Okay, bishop here, knight takes. Queen there, threatening mate, but then you can also go queen there and exchange everything. So b3 is a little bit too slow. b3 is a little bit too slow. Bishop e6 I would go. Let's say rook here, but then still rook there. But then queen to here. So I'm calculating rook here, queen there, planning to go knight g4 and e5, and maybe b3 next. But okay, we don't have this. We have the move queen to d6. Now I would take here on e5, takes and play the move e4, f4, which we had earlier. But then this e-pawn hangs. So f3 might be the move to go for, but this is equal. Sorry, but this is just equal. I don't see any advantage for white. Both engines give a slight advantage to white, but nothing to write home about. Let's see, knight takes e5, rook fd8. Rook fd8, okay, why not the other rook, but okay, let's do this. Queen b3 now, going after this pawn. b6, defending. Bishop here, most probably bishop e3. And white is pretty solid, developed, has a better pawn structure and a bishop versus a knight, so white is somewhat better, but not a lot. Okay, this is Wasp's line. Komodo's line goes similar. Knight takes e5, queen takes e5, f3, knight f6, d7. So this is Komodo's first choice, knight f6, d7. Followed up with rook a b1. Okay, this was also an idea I had before. Rook f e8. b3, trying to go there with the bishop, and yeah, this diagonal is somewhat better, but you can always go queen here and exchange queens and take the fun out of the position. Takes bishop here, I don't know. Should still be somewhat better for white, but winning this is hard. So we'll probably even go b4 to stop this. Queen f4 idea. Well, the line continues with b3. Rook f8, b3, rook a d8, rook a d8, bishop b2 and queen c5. Followed up with bishop to d4. Don't allow the queen exchange, but you can go queen d5 immediately after b3. You can go queen c5 immediately, exchange queens, because now there is no bishop to here. So that's why I would play the move b4, also taking away the squares for the knight, but you have to factor in this c5 move, or a5, but you can attack the queen. Okay, you cannot go there. Kind of have to go there. And queen here, threatening mate, but you can block this. But then you get again some bad stuff here on both sides of the board, and if black can hold this rook endgame, it's, I don't know, it's equal on pawns, but this is a pawn mess and this is also a pawn mess. This is even greater pawn mess. So we have 3 pawn islands, 1 doubled isolated c pawn and 1 isolated a pawn, and yeah, this is quite compact, but it's still a double g pawn. So yeah, but okay, white has also 2 isolated pawns on the a and on the c file. So okay, probably this is nothing. So b4 is nothing. So rook b1, b3. Rook here, bishop there. But after b3, you can go here with the queen immediately. Exchange queens. Bishop here. You don't want to play this and have this tripled isolated c pawn and this isolated a pawn. This is for nothing. But this is better for white, but just play that move and it should be fine. So we have the move f3. Now, as planned, rook fd8 now. Instead of knight, yeah, knight here, I understand, knight d7. It prepares a queen exchange. And yeah, taking the fun out of the position, rook fd1 is somewhat more interesting. Rook fd8, queen b3. What about this? This is no, wait, sorry. Rook fd8, rook here, knight there. It's still in time to exchange queens. And knight e6, and it's a draw. I think it's a draw, this position. So knight d6, we are currently in that position right here. Queen b3. Now going after this pawn, b6 and bishop e3. This is also, yeah, knight d7, trying to go here. Queen a4, knight here, bishop takes, queen takes, with check, king goes there, another rook infiltrates. Rook here, rook takes, queen takes, rook takes, rook here, queen there, takes. Black is a rook up, so this kind of tactic doesn't work. Okay, we don't have b3, queen b3. We have the move a4 by Komodo. Rook d8, d7, trying to double on the d file. a4, rook d7, or a5. This is now the choice from Wasp. a5 followed up with c3, h6, queen e3, f4. I don't know if Komodo will go for this. At f6, d7. Yeah, this Berlin defense, yeah, but then you can take here, right? Oh, not knight here immediately. Knight d7. Bishop e3 and f6. Bishop e3 and f6. This is Wasp's line, followed up with rook a d1. Yeah, okay, now c3 is kind of blocking the queen's view on this b2 pawn. So, yeah. Okay, oh wow, we have move a5. And now rook a3. Very interesting rook lift there. Knight fd7. Let's see what both engines think about that position now. Komodo thinks it's slightly better for white, and Wasp thinks, Wasp 2.00 thinks it's a slight advantage to white, but let's see. f67, we're currently at that position. At f67, rook c3, preventing any knight or queen coming there. What's okay? h6, you have to play something. g6, the rook is protected by the queen. Now bishop here is coming, but nothing is protecting the bishop. So, but bishop here to here, and then it's protected, and it's on this long diagonal. So this could be something for white, but not much. Not much. His position should be holdable. Queen c3, knight f8 is what Komodo gives. h3. h3, rook d7, f4, attacking the queen, queen d4, yeah, going for the queen exchange that way, bishop c1, b2, oh, not h3, b3, rook there, f4, queen d4, bishop here, queen takes, rook takes. It's just nothing. Okay, you could go after that pawn, but f6. Okay, f6 doesn't work because you can take it, but just g6 and there is nothing going on. on that diagonal. You could insert this rook move, bishop move, and then play e5. But the knight will come to e6. But then f5. It's not that clear. Takes, and now we have a phone pawn. King here is probably deadly, I don't know. Yeah, I don't see the death right now. b3, queen d4 immediately. Yeah, but this position, no, not this one. g6, bishop here. Yeah, okay, you can at least go for that pawn, but this is just a pawn exchange. But now h5. King here. Okay, rook takes, you can go. Rook here. I kind of want to defend this pawn, but then white has time to defend there. e6, pawn takes, rook here check, king here, rook there, king there, rook takes here, e6, rook there, rook takes here, rook there, check, 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 and the checks are ending. Rook here, but then you can just eliminate this pawn. And yeah, this rook endgame should still be drawn, although black is up a pawn, but it should still be drawn. Or is black up 2 pawns actually? Let's see, 4, no, 1 pawn. But okay, we have queen d4 immediately. Still an interesting line, this one. Instead of f4, we have this b3 and queen d4. Queen takes, rook takes, and bishop b3, threatening rook takes c3. So let's see, rook d7. Now f4 still, trying to go here with the rook. Rook here, going after the e-pawn. Rook there, now you have to do something against this threat. So g6. Now this pawn is really hanging, you don't want to hem in your own bishop. So rook to e1. Probably trying to go f4, f3. So f5. But then this one comes and you have a protected pass pawn. So white should be slightly better in this endgame. Bishop here, f5. If you don't go f5, if you continue pressing, and maybe still this one. Now it's protected by the bishop. Yeah, f5, but it's the same story. If you go b4, trying to expand on the king side, then f4 you cannot take, f5 is coming. So you take here, in between move, and pawn takes there. And this form pawn guarantees some better endgames here. Rook takes. Also, the other option is king here, trying to go into the center with the king. King f2, knight e6 was probably... King here doesn't do anything, so I will go here to kick the rook. The rook goes back here. Yeah, but This is also nothing. I would still go for this bishop here and f4 idea for something like this. This looks to be the most interesting thing to do. Komodo gives this as plus 058 and Wasp gives this as plus 045. So rook takes d4, bishop e3, king f2 is what Komodo 12 thinks is a good move. Follow up with knight e6 and rook fe1. So this is Komodo's line is going like this. Rook takes, of course, we have king f2, knight e6 and rook e1. Probably trying to go e4, e5. So let's try b4. e4 takes, e5, pushing the knight somewhat back. Knight here, rook there, pawn takes here, bishop there, e6, pawn takes there, okay, you gave up a pawn, but you get a form pawn, or you can capture here. Capturing there is not that great, but I think it's not, you cannot give up a pawn like that. But now you're, yeah, but taking here allows rook takes, and after rook here, there's not really a threat. f6, just g6. This is not really a threat, so b5, you have to factor in b5. So you might take, and play now f4. Play now f4. Doubling on the e-file. Rook here. Let's say h4, then bishop here, rook there, this one, and this is completely lost. You just have this simple but strong mating pattern. Rook here, and now just mating with removing the rook. So, but black won't fall for that. So it won't play a5. Probably rook back immediately, then kicking the knight. Knight goes there, bishop here. This doesn't work, so you have to play g3. And now f6. Knight here, e5. Probably moving the rook there to there, this rook to here, the bishop back to control this square. Let's see, okay, we have king f2. And we don't have b5. We have to move rook d7 back immediately. Now f4, g6, f6. f4, f6. f5, let's try. But then the knight goes here. Okay, h4. Knight goes there, rook goes there. Followed up with bishop here to threaten on this pawn. So let's say the king goes in the corner. So rook, bishop here, knight there, just blockading. And if you ever take this, okay, black's pawn structure is a little messed up, but with 3 pawn islands versus 2, but I don't think white can win this. We have king f2. In that position, king f2. Followed up with rook here and f4. This is the current board position. And Komodo gives it as plus 0.75. So let's see, rook a e8. No, let's, yeah, f4, rook a e8 is what Wasp 2.0 thinks is a good move. Going after this pawn. If you sacrifice it, let's try this. Going after that pawn. Okay, it's probably too much because you also lose this with check. Lose the rook with check, and then you can still play g6 and you lost all your pawns for basically nothing. So you kind of have, oh, we have f6. f6. Rook fe1. Rook fe1. Also the king can help out with king f3 at some point. g3 could come. The rook is preventing any b5 push because then this pawn would hang. So this rook lift from before is kind of useful right now. So rook d4, rook d7, d4, f6, rook fe1 we have on the board. And now knight g6 going probably after this pawn, preventing any bishop to here ideas, but then g4, g3 just strengthening it. Maybe h4, h5 could come. Maybe even f4. No, f4 not, because then the knight would jump into e5. So let's go with the rook here. h4, trying to go h5, so h5 himself. Okay, the king goes even further. There is not much counterplay black has, so probably knight here at some point. Bishop there. c5, no, c5 not. b3 also, yeah, b3 you could go, because now the knight is protecting this pawn. Let's say g4, takes. Yeah, this king is very active. This knight, so let's say c5. Try and go here with the knight to jump in there. Then the rook is coming onto the g-file. Knight here, let's say. King there. Knight here. No. I would go there with the king even. Knight here, check. Takes. And rook there, adding some pressure to this pawn. Okay, but we have g4. This would also be an interesting kind of endgame. But I don't know. Okay, we have g4, because this pawn is currently defended by the bishop. g4, expanding on the king side. Let's see both evaluations. Komodo thinks it's nearly winning, and Wasp thinks it's better for white. So let's see, h6 is now the thing Wasp calculates. Now e5, pawn takes. Yeah, this is a strong pawn. So let's see, rook here, rook there. There, followed up with bishop here. So let's say b3, bishop there, c5. Let's go c4. Knight here. Okay, now you lose a pawn. So this is not what the doctor ordered. So Probably not even e4. I would go king here, playing h4, h5. After all, so let's say rook goes here, because this doesn't do anything. h4, rook here. Now you're on that pawn, so there. So now you could play c5. h5, knight here. Bishop there. Yeah, it looks like a passive position for black. Black can just sit and wait. Probably something like this. This has to be played at some point. And now e5. Whenever white wants to play e5, it can play e5. Because now it's 3 versus 3. So there is rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, knight takes, bishop takes. So you cannot take the pawn. So, but is it a winning passer? I'm not sure. Okay, we have different move than h6. We have the move rook to d6. Now king g3 most probably. Yeah, you won't see Komodo the play f5 and give this square away. King g3 also not. We have bishop a3 attacking the rook. Yeah, this rook move was protecting this pawn, so there was now b4 as an idea. Rook d4, trying to go active. Now I will play bishop to b2, rook d or king f3 is also an option. This is what Komodo gives, but rook here is also interesting, because you're currently threatening to take this pawn. Rook takes there, rook takes, and rook takes here. But then rook takes there. And it's 5 versus 5, and this you cannot win anymore. So probably the move Komodo plays is calculating king f3 is much better, because it protects all of its pawns. Just be patient in chess. Don't move your pawns too early. Just grind, grind, and grind the position. So still Komodo thinks it's better for white, but not by a lot. 0.82, so white has some advantage, but not a winning advantage. Rook a8 to d8, doubling on the d file. But now I would go here. Let's say you go there. h3, rook there, and rook there. So this, after this you have to play rook c, bishop c1 to prevent any rook coming in here. But bishop c1 is not that bad, because the rook is not blocked in, and yeah. So rook d8, rook c1, king f7. King f7 now. This is how the line continues. Rook c3, c5. Going in here. Now rook d4, d1. Rook takes d1, rook takes d1, bishop e3. Bishop e3. Oh, we have different move. We have to move rook c5 immediately. What about this? Rook here. Can I play e5? Rook takes e6, rook there, e7. There is no perpetual check because there the king can just approach, but king here, the rook takes, there is nothing. The pawn just runs through. If you double here, there is nothing for black. You cannot stop this pawn anymore. Yeah, you could actually, because you can just take it. But this move, rook c5, also attacks this a5 pawn. And if this one would have played, then just taking there. So this was the major threat. So, but what is after this? If you take there, taking there, rook here, rook takes, knight takes, knight here, king there, knight goes all the way back, e5 is suppressed, so probably e5 now, and if rook there, then e3, check, rook just goes there, king just goes there. And if you go here, then the pawn push, and you take the rook. So without the check, rook here, let's see, pawn here, knight there allows a fork, knight here allows the knight to be captured, knight here allows king there. So I think this would be terrible for black. So bishop c5 we had, and now king f7, king takes b5. Now finally you can play this, but isn't this just desperate play from Wasp? 1 point, both are on 1 point, so both are thinking that this is now winning for black. But I have some questions at least. Rook d4, d2 now. Taking there, e5. Rook going here. Let's say e6, king there, rook has to go back, check, king has to go there, knight here and king there, and it's still a problem. But this is the only square. No, the knight can also go there, but then you can maybe sacrifice the exchange and go there, followed up with this kind of stuff. Let's see, black does nothing, gives a check and goes back, e6, pawn takes. Is this a threat now? I just take with the king and take this with the king, so it's not a threat, but the king could come in and this could be winning. So let's see if something like this arises on the board. Rook here, b takes, rook takes c2 is also possible, going after that pawn as well. Rook takes c2. No, we have my variation with rook takes there. Now rook a5 to d5, trying to exchange rooks that way. Rook takes, pawn takes, and now we have 4 versus 6 pawns, so this should be clearly winning for white, actually. Yeah, both engines agree, not clearly, but it's better. It's winning for white, but for how much? Okay, the rook went to the A file to attack the bishop. Rook here check. King G8. King G3 attacking the rook. The rook takes on C2. Most probably. Rook, is this working? Rook takes. Here check. King there. Check. King there. Check. King there. Checkmate. Yeah, well, you have to give up the knight and then it's checkmate. So you can't double actually on the d file, and black cannot take here. So rook ec1. Also rook ec1 is kind of good, trying to get this position. And now you have to go passive. You have to go here or here, it doesn't really matter. Let's say you go there. Bishop here, e5, this is coming. And there is not much black can do against this. Knight here, just rook there. And the knight has no more squares. Okay, the knight could hop back and we could have a repetition. So probably the rook is better on a2. Bishop there. Okay, we don't have this rook exchange. Rook c2, we have rook there. And now bishop to c5. What about rook takes e5 now? b4, b3, b4, b5, b6 maybe. So let's try this. Let's give some random moves. Okay, this is not a random move. Anyway, bishop here, rook takes there, rook takes there. Okay, we have rook c1, bishop e2, bishop c5, and rook here, rook d7, d8 check, king here, and rook c d1. Now the checks run outright. The king just goes there and there are no more checks available. So rook g2, king there. But at least you don't go mated. Knight here check. King here. Rook there and king there. Do you have some threatening ideas? So let's say you go there. Rook here. There, rook there. This is mate. So you have to go there then. Then rook takes here and there are no more checks available. The knight is controlling, the rook is controlling this square right here. So knight h4 check. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. Knight h4 check, king there. Rook here check. King d4. What? king d4, isn't this just plundering a rook? King d4. This is just plundering a rook. King d4. Did I miss something? Rook here. Rook takes, rook takes. What am I missing? Queen d4. Rook there. Takes, takes. Rook takes. Something. I'm missing something. Oh, you can just go away with the king, and now both rooks are defending each other. So if you take that one, then just this one. Or even better, you go there, attack the rook, and if you take here, you give this check, and if you take this rook, then pawn takes and you cannot stop queening. So this is just a trick I saw. So okay, this is not plundering a rook. But the game should be over soon. Let's see both evaluations right around here. Plus 3.67 and plus 4.19. So the real Komodo 12 without the Monte Carlo version is really better than the other one. Okay, let's go to the current board position. Knight h4 check, king here. Rook there, king g4, rook takes here, king there, takes, I just want to go to the board position, rook here, a4, rook there, and king c3. This was not the moves played in the game, but okay, rook here. Check. King just moves up the board. This pawns doesn't really matter. King takes d4. Just rook there. Defending the pawn, playing f4. So rook has to go there. Rook here. A pawn here threatening to come in there. Yeah, it's over. I don't see anything for black. Just rook here. After rook takes f4, rook e7, and it's over. It's completely busted. These two pawns are stronger than... This white's pawns are stronger than black's pawns. Much stronger, much far advanced. So the rook has to go back, yeah. And now just c7, rook c8, and rook there, and there is nothing you can do. You have to give up the rook for the pawn and play out this position. But white has one remaining pawn still. Also after this you can just go for the rook exchange, because otherwise the knight hangs. Pawn takes, and rook c8. Now let's push pawns. You can go at some point here. No, you cannot go there. Could go there actually. Then just this kind of stuff. And pawn here, and there is no way of stopping this pawn from promoting, so it's all over. Komodo won against Wasp. This was not such a weird game. This was actually clear-cut win in the Berlin defense, and let's see how far they played theory. Okay, actually this bishop d6 was the first move, not theory. d4, bishop g4 immediately is theory. Stopping any d4 ideas. Let's follow this through a little bit. Bishop g4, new variation h3, bishop takes, queen takes, and now bishop d6, d3, pawn here, queen there, castles. I would go bishop here actually, but queen here is just, so this is for nothing. So knight d1, knight d2, f6, knight c4, knight here, queen there, and f4. Pawn takes, probably bishop takes, or probably even knight takes here, followed by pawn takes, and bishop takes here, and some attack brewing. But we have this bishop d6 followed by d4, bishop here, d takes c5, knight here, knight d2, castles, and yeah, the endgame is better for white here. This g4, here rook there, yeah, actually this is all clear cut. This is really clear cut. This bishop king d4, this is very nice endgame technique by Komodo. And here, yeah, also rook c8 would have won, but yeah. Okay, thanks for watching and see you next time. Ciao.